This is IBM Museum. Behind me I have a IBM PS2 Mol 70 opened up drives and the drive platform removed. We're looking into it from the side, and this is the highest end planar that IBM had for the Mol 70. I'll include a link in the video description to this planar. Now, the origins of the planar were that the Replay Corporation produced it initially, and IBM went through and rebranded it as a system board upgrade for their Mol 70. And I actually got this new in box in static anti-static wrap, and installed it into the system. And I'm going through to get this going now, but I've encountered an issue. And this is why I was grateful that the Reply Model 80 planars I have, the turbo processor and the power board, they don't have these capacitors like this on the board. And when I looked them over, everything looked good. But on this planar, it has a few of these capacitors on the board in places. There's some places that they're rather heavy, such as between the microchannel slots over on the right-hand side. But this is the most visible on the planar that I noticed right off the bat. And yes, I understand that the label on the BIOS chip is peeled back. I was going through and trying to read the video BIOS, pulled the chip out of there, had to peel that label back to see what the capacity of this EEPROM was, because it's was a lot bigger than what I expected, a lot bigger capacity. And it actually stores a little bit of the system BIOS as well. It mirrors that that chip that's just beyond that. They're in a format where they save a copy, basically, of the BIOS, or when you do the flash update process on this planar, it has that a backup copy ultimately. But I did notice a little bit of discolorization around the capacitor. In this image, there's a little bit of reflection of my ring light, but you can see the just the areas where it looks like fluid has come out of this capacitor, and these unequal areas around that capacitor where it has apparently leaked and caused a visible difference. And it's best to see this kind of in lighting off center. You're not looking at it from above. I do have the let me get to where I can. This is zoomed in real time, just right above the capacitor right now, and you can see some portions on that I don't want to zoom in too far here. Okay, you can see some areas that, I mean, they look this. They just have like a dust and filaments from the air coating this, and even a dust brush, a light dust brush, won't take this off. You would have to go at it with a cleaner, alcohol or water, something to the level with a stiffer brush to get that material removed. Even on the side of the capacitor itself, there's a little bit of a coating of dust, and at least there's not the visible corrosion to the chips. It doesn't look like anything other than the fluid coming out of this capacitor. But this is, disheartening. It just means that I'm likely going to have to go through and replace a number of the capacitors on the planar, just to be sure. I mean, there is not even though there's not the corrosion, these just are not likely, if they've leaked, to have any capacitive value that they still have to them. And this is another one of the capacitors. In fact, you can see it there a little bit as well. Around the corner of that 46 socket, you can just see that discolorization, that dust that's there, that coating that is there on the planar. So I'll have to look. I mean, the really troublesome or the worrying area for me is within this area between the microchannel slots, where, and besides being a little bit hard to get at these capacitors, but and this is, it looks like just a little bit of shadowing and things like that are occurring there to show that discolorization around there. But there might even be just a light coating the same way on, and I do have some stiff bristle brushes to go at some of these areas, just to see if that's a coating of dust that comes out, or if it's something that's more worrisome about these capacitors leaking. I mean, just every one of these that's on the board is going to be suspect in some way for me. And so I fully intend to get this board going, to get these capacitors replaced, so I can go through and get the planar operational, get it in the system where it works. I can do benchmarking and compare its performance against the other MAL 70 systems. Now the web page for this is here, and I'll include a link to this in the video description. Just briefly, I'll go through and scroll through and just show the layout. And this board is supposed to exist in two forms, where it actually has CPUs that are soldered in place, the plastic quad flat pack. CPUs can go in there. There's supposed to be even a Blue Lightning version, that the IBM 46 DLC chip, or they call it the 46BL for Blue Lightning, being soldered in place on the board. I have the board with the socket. This can go through for anything from the 46 SX, DX, DX2s, even the DX4s. It's a 5-volt socket that's there, or even Kingston turbo chips and things like that. Those 5X 86 133 megahertz. So you have to have a low enough profile CPU to be under, and to be able to cool the CPU under that drive platform, just like with the other MAL 70 AXX and BXX planar that has that CPU daughter card there. It's also underneath the drive platform and can be right underneath a the bay area for the B diskette drive being above it. But it's a nice planar, and it's too bad it has that faults of those capacitors. There's at least not any corrosion, or doesn't appear to be. I zoom in, and I'm not seeing that green colored or aqua colored corrosion on any chips or anything like that. So it is the capacitors are not causing that yet, but they are clearly have leaked and they have lost their capacitive values on the motherboard. So I will go through and include this link, and then work on this board in time, get it all cleaned up, and once I get the replacement capacitors in place, you'll see a little bit more of it with the on future videos, and I can get all that corrected. So wish me luck. But if you go through and if you've enjoyed this video, click on that like button, subscribe my channel if you have not already. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.